I would say in terms of getting started, it was really just the first steps. And again, like for students, this is such it's such in many ways, a prototype of how to make a documentary, because we had the subject, as Andre said, but then, one thing I knew that we needed was to keep it, really nimble and small and intimate, because, as Andre said, he had just been actually, Mr. Vines had just gone through some chemotherapy, and so he was very ill, and we were communicating almost everything through a nonprofit organization who had originally connected us to him,
Mhm.
Music Maker Foundation, which is in Fountain, North Carolina. And they were the ones who were facilitating both the introduction to Mr. Vines and the subject. And they had also, um, produced the book about him. And so
Mhm.
we really didn't know anyone. We didn't even know each other. Andre and I knew each other, but that was sort of it, because, Gil, the producer, couldn't even be there at the beginning. It was just us. And so I would say that, like a lot of documentaries that I've had, that I've either made or had it something to do with, it's about discovery. So you go there and you look and you explore and you ask questions and you observe the environment, and you just try to capture a moment. And I think, and Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like pretty early we were kind of like, we're gonna, the book has been told, the book has told that story. We are capturing Mr. Vines in this moment in his life at 82,
Mhm.
suffering with chemo, and just, and taking him on his terms today. And I feel like that helped guide us, because we were really not overwhelmed then by the story of the history or by the future, frankly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think you got it exactly right, Tim. We we um we just let the like I describe it as a poetic moment in this man's life. There have been other works out there that are fine. We
Mhm.
were very deliberate with our approach to not be anthropological.
Mhm.
We weren't researching a subject. This is not a character. This is a participant who's willing to go on a journey with us to reveal his story and share with us, which I think really shined through as I was watching the trailer and also thinking about what Tim just said. I'm remembering at multiple screenings to see people respond to him. People, he's funny.
Yeah.
People totally laugh. Like they're like this guy, because he just has like the lines and the language and like really goes into what Maya Angelou described as portmanteau. Like he's making up words to describe what he's talking about, which is so fantastic. And he's just funny. He's a mystic. He's brilliant.
So you were trying to capture him in as natural way as possible, and it was a very small production, right? I think there were four of you. Like,
or
who were the different roles that were involved?
we had a cinematographer. We had actually two people who were both camera operators and sound recordists. So we had this incredible gift of, collaborators who were just, really great. Ethan Payne and Lee Garman. And Ethan, I had been teaching Ethan's short films for years, as demonstrations of great documentary shorts, and
Mhm.
had never met him. And his name came across our desk when we were starting to put the crew together, and couldn't believe it. I was like, this is a guy I'm dying to work with. He's out of Atlanta, and he found Lee for us. So they knew each other really well. Um, and it was a great collaboration.
You mentioned the setup, the cinematography. It looks like the film is really keyed in trying to tell the story of the place, because obviously the place and the wood and the person and the setting is all intertwined. So, how important was the setup, the shooting, and the sort of the planning for the different environments?
It was very important because it was a very intimate space that we were creating. And we shot on a Sony FX3, which is a fantastic camera for documentary work. The FX6 is great. The whole FX line is fantastic. But the great thing about the FX3 is it's small, it's
Mm,
portable, it's a little beast. It's sort of easier to operate, but it's you still got to find your way through it. And I think that really made a difference because it wasn't some big monster crew that was like
Yeah.
in his face with materials. It was, we just were very present with him, and it felt like we were sitting in community and having a conversation. And Ethan and Lee both were really great production people that were, because it was hot, you know,
It was
and
August
it was all
Oh,
in North Carolina, or September. I forget. It was August or
I
September.
imagine.
it was still hot. And there was one, this is a great moment about in terms of crew and how we divide it. There's one
Yeah.
afternoon, you know, because part of the film was about the trees that were used to lynch people.
Yeah.
And the location was shared with us. And I said, I don't want to go to the location. And Freeman said, I don't want to go either, you know? And so Tim Duffy was in the film, and Ethan went out and filmed. And then Lee and I sat with Freeman, and Freeman called his sister to come on by, you know, which wasn't something we had planned out, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And she
Yeah.
came and she gave us one of the most beautiful moments in the movie. She sings with him, and they have a whole brother sister interaction, which is kind of fun. And I remember, I still to this day remember seeing the two Tims and Ethan come back, and they had been out in the woods and
Yeah.
chopping down trees, not like chopping the bush basically to get to like a site. And I was like, oh, I feel bad because we were we were not there, and they just were like worn out. And then they stepped back in and did more production because we have more stuff to film. You
Yeah.
know? And that's like the teamwork that you have to have when it comes to these kind of processes, to kind of work, I should say.
And when you're working with someone like Ethan, sorry, Gordon.
Okay.
When you're working with someone like Ethan, I mean, we were driving every day past these tobacco fields, which figure heavily into the imagery.
Yeah.
And once Ethan who became the editor for us, he also wanted to edit. So he was thinking like an editor while he was shooting.
Mhm.
He was giving us these images that ended up being poetic. And we, you know, the first conversation I remember having with him, we talked about tobacco being the image of the voices of the ancestors as the camera is sweeping across the tobacco fields. And so I just love that he was already thinking about the poetic implications of some of the landscape.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, in raw terms, how long was the project? Did you really consciously try to do it as compact as possible to not make it too taxing for Mr. Vines?
You know, we had an Airbnb the next town over because there just was nowhere else to stay. And we're sitting on a porch at the end of that, I think the second day, and we were like, wow, that was an intense month, huh? You know, you know, we filmed for 2 days. We filmed
2
for
days.
2 days.
You filmed in 2 days.
2 days.
2 days, 2.5, because we filmed a little bit the third morning,
Right.
but that was all without Mr. Vines. So
Right.
it's just other images. But wow, 2.5 days.
Yeah.
2.5 days for 20 minutes of film. Is that right? Fine. On the final edit.
14.
14 minutes of film. Wow. Well, there were not too many outtakes then, not too much wasted footage, I guess.
There's a lot that we didn't use. I mean, there was hours and hours and hours of footage because we shot constantly for 2.5 days. I mean, a lot.
We had a beautiful moment where so it's a small town, and down the road was a post office.
Mm.
And small town. So the person who ran the post office, she was a postmaster, and she delivered the mail, and she probably sorted the mail too. And she was someone that brought meals to Freeman. So she came by just to check in on him. And so we filmed her. We're like, so who are you? She goes, I run the post office up the block.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I love Freeman. And she started talking about him. And it's really funny because she's like, I'm not a film person. And then she gave us a great little talking to about the experience working with him. And those kind of moments happen. Some people came by in a van to like record music in a studio next door, and they talked to us a little bit like these kids riding bikes back and forth because they were who are these strange people in town. Like all these great little moments happened that just weren't usable in the final product.
So you guys were the beneficiary of lots of things happening around you, but you also had open eyes to see, wait, this is something that happens here. I want to ask about sound because it's a movie about an instrument maker, and I think, Andre, I think you had some special story about how you got the soundtrack assembled, but also the recording of the sound must have been very important. The man's voice is amazing. So how did you approach that? Did you have a specific way to think about that?
Well, that's a great part of having Ethan and Lee, because Tim and I wanted to focus on the creative, and we had this team of I don't know what to call them, like folks who were sound recorders and photographers, digital camera people, photographers.
They're like
Yeah.
utility crew. I mean, they're
Yeah,
just they
yeah,
do it
they
all. They do it
like a
all.
whole thing. These two had done like music videos together, so they
Mhm.
really got some. They were showing us some stuff they did, which was really fantastic. And they had a language, and when you're on a film set, you need to be able to talk to each other without talking to each other,
Mhm.
and communicate very clearly. And sound is crucial when it comes to a documentary, And we had someone with a really heavy Southern accent, who had a cigar in his mouth the whole time,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
so we had to have the right person that knew how to get the boom right where it needed to be, and to put the mic on the man that had his shirt open the whole time. So it's like you can't change him, and he's rolling around in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So you have to work with the environment you have, and we knew that sound was crucial because this man created.
Mm.
When we first got there, I remember thinking like, does this man really make these guitars? Do they work?
Mhm.
And at one point he pulled out an electronic machine that started going, and I was like, wow, he really is a person who makes our records. So on the post production side of things, we once again were with Ethan. Ethan brought a colleague of his in,
Mhm.
Gresham Cash, who is working in Paris now. Tim was in LA, I was in Philadelphia, Gresham was in Paris, and Ethan was moving throughout the South because Ethan is a busy man. And we were all jumping on Zooms,
Mhm.
ironing out how we're going to edit this movie, talking about sound. And the great thing is Gresham is like doing a master's in sound and digital creation in Paris right now, which is really fantastic.
Mm.
He one day just kind of said,
Mm.
uh, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I remember receiving. He goes, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to make a soundtrack for the movie."
That's exactly
He's like,
how
"Is
it
that okay?"
happened. Yeah.
We were
But
like, "Yes, that's
Gil
okay."
the producer has a record label, coincidentally. So he
Yeah,
said, he talked to Gresham and said, let's release a soundtrack. The only thing that's missing on there is I really do wish that Reverend Alice had been on there. But
yeah,
Mr. Vine's sister sings a song in the film that's one of my favorite. It's really my favorite moment, that I only got to witness in film because I wasn't there. I was out shooting something else, and Andre was filming that, and it was a really special moment. But yeah, the soundtrack is available, but it's also you were talking about the lapel, like the
yeah,
lav,
yeah.
One thing that for the students that might be interesting is if you are if you encounter a situation where the sound could be improved, for example, and you know that it would just help if they took off their necklace because the necklace is hitting the microphone, or
Yeah.
if they would just turn off their fridge, or if they would actually maybe put on a different shirt because it's creating a moire pattern. Those are
Mhm.
the kinds of situations that I know I would, and I'm pretty sure you would too, André. We would say, yes, could you please do this? But in Freeman's case, we were both sort of like, this is who he is, and it wasn't hurting the sound.
Mhm.
It was really more of I almost feel like it was more of a personal decision. Like, is this respectful of him? Like,
Mhm.
what does it mean? I don't know. What do you think about that? I haven't.
I so agree with that, and I think to add to that is we had two technical people, well, all of us actually, who knew how to deal with and respect an elder in the South.
Yeah.
That's a real situation, a real moment where there's certain things you just don't do, and and then when you work in that way, they respect you and welcome you in. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to call out other productions, but he talked to us a bit about some other folks came in and he just didn't feel good about how
Mm.
they dealt with him.
Mhm.
And he had love for us. I mean, I wish we could have. We probably did film it. There's so many moments where We walk over here and he roll his wheel up. What y'all doing? You know,
Yeah.
it was so cute. He was so happy to
He's
have us.
really lovely.
And then like calling us and having conversations afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, I remember thinking, he said, well, here's my number. And I was like, well, will we really talk? But you call him and have a great conversation with him. You know, he was a really incredible man. But I really want to emphasize that point to students of thinking about how you're interacting with people and
Yeah.
environment you're going into. You don't expect a person to bend and change for you. You have to go in and make yourself fit into the space that you're in and make yourself welcomed and agreeable, because film sets, people need to like you because you spend a lot of time, a whole
Yeah.
lot of time together. And that camaraderie, friendship, and respect is
Yeah.
very important on every film set, I believe.